Has there finally been justice in the murder of 4-year-old Blue Rowland and the abuse that was suffered by both he and his sister Taylor? I remember how shocked, how rocked the state of Arkansas was whenever the details of the murder of Blue Rowland came out, whenever the news hit that there had been the body of this 4-year-old little boy that had been found in a house, in the floorboard of a house in Morrow, Arkansas. So back in December of 2022, it was actually everything that came out because of a family court judge. A family court judge ordered that Karen Rowland, the grandmother of Blue and Taylor, could go over to Ashley Rowland's home in Morrow, Arkansas, and that an officer should be there to force Ashley to hand over Blue and Taylor to their grandmother. It had been so long since the father had been able to see the children. And it was because of that that it came out that these children had been abused and that Blue Rowland had been in that house dead for who knows, who actually knows how long. I saw in some court documents, it estimates that Blue Rowland was murdered on something like September 9th, 2022, meaning that the rest of those people lived in that house for an entire, what, 3 months before it ever came out that he was dead. Ashley Rowland lived in that home with her son's remains for 3 months. And through this court case, so many details of the abuse that was suffered by Taylor and Blue Rowland came out. And honestly, I don't know. I just feel like it's sickening. It's shocking. According to court documents, Blue was killed and buried in a hole in the home occupied by Ashley and Nathan Bridges. Blue Rowland was made to go without sleep while holding a board above his head so that if he fell asleep, the board would come down and hit him in the head. Taylor was deprived of food and water. She was kept in a dog cage, like locked in a dog cage. She was put in a bathtub with scalding hot water. Both Taylor and Blue were hit by Nathan Bridges' children because Nathan Bridges placed boxing gloves on his children and told them to hit Taylor and Blue as hard as they could. And all of that is pretty believable, in my opinion, because according to the police, Nathan Bridges allegedly drowned Blue Rowland in a toilet after he got mad because he stuck his fingers in Blue's mouth and Blue bit him. You know what? I can't say whether Blue Rowland bit Nathan Bridges or not. I mean, why was Nathan's fingers in his mouth? But if Blue did actually bite Nathan Bridges, I hope he bit the absolute fire out of him. After all the abuse that those kids suffered, I hope that he at least bit the absolute crap out of Nathan Bridges before he died. When the grandmother picked up Taylor Rowland, she took Taylor to the hospital. Taylor was transported to Le Bonheur Children's Hospital. And at Children's Hospital, it came out that along with all the other injuries that Taylor had, she had injuries like burns on her scalp, even. She also had a leg fracture. And all of that was consistent with the chronic abuse that those children were suffering. So Nathan Bridges was originally charged with capital murder, battery, abuse of a corpse, endangering the welfare of a minor, and tampering with physical evidence. Now, last month in July, he accepted a guilty plea. With that guilty plea, Nathan Bridges pled guilty to first degree murder and he pled guilty to battery. He was sentenced to 40 years on the murder, 20 on the battery. Now, I originally said that he was sentenced to 40 years in prison. It could be 40 plus 20, or it could be 40 and 20 that are ran concurrently. I don't know because the sentencing order hasn't been entered, but he's either sentenced to 40 or 60 years. The newest update on this case is that Ashley Rowland had court on August 12th. She went into court and she accepted a guilty plea. When Ashley Rowland was first arrested, she was charged with capital murder, first degree battery, tampering with physical evidence, endangering the welfare of a minor, 2 counts of permitting abuse to a minor, and abuse of a corpse. Now, as part of the plea deal, she pled guilty to 2 counts of permitting the abuse of a minor. That's it. All the other charges were dropped. Now, as part of this plea deal, for permitting the abuse of a minor. On each count, she was sentenced to 20 years in prison, and that is ran consecutively, giving her 40 years in prison. Now, she won't spend 40 years in prison likely, it'll be much less, but she did get away from having a murder charge. I mean, truly, I think the only unfortunate thing is that she'll get to go on living her life when her son never did. She'll get to serve her time in prison and likely be released at some point in time, but her daughter will live with the abuse that she suffered at the hands of her mother, her mom's boyfriend, and her mom's boyfriend's children for the rest of her life. So, is it justice? Yes. Does it feel like justice? I don't know. What do you think?